Welcome to KonKon's Cantina. Grab a drink, sit back, and relax.
What is up, everybody? It's your boy, it's KonKon, back again with Ben. He's to my right, virtually, of course, but he's here nonetheless. Guys, this week we are talking the second part to our two-part of 3D printing. This week is definitely some more pointed information. We threw a lot of information at you last week. We're going to give you some more detailed answers, some very specific answers to where you can really get your jump. And then later down the road, when I do receive my 3D printer, and actually some of our other listeners have reached out talking about they also want to get 3D printers. I'm sure we will be revisiting this in a later discussion, having a part 3, maybe some, more kind of like do's and don'ts, things that we have learned. But first, I'm Connor, of course, and sitting with me over all the way in the land of
Texas.
Open carrying, Texas. Ben, tell the people hello.
The wild, wild west.
The Wild West.
I'm Benjamin. You can check me out on Instagram as Benjamin Asher. I work as a professional photographer, but I'm a huge Star Wars fan. So thought this would be a lot of fun, and it's been a great time on the podcast.
Guys, housekeeping, of course, very quickly. Merch. We do have some Star Wars shirts, of course, inspired from the galaxy far, far away. You can check that out in the Linktree that you will find on all social media. That is konkonscantina at YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. If you would like to work with us and this podcast, feel free to email us at konkonscantina@gmail.com. Of course, we have the Facebook group, we have Twitter, and we have the Discord. The way that you can join the Discord is by going to the Linktree itself on all social media. There, just click on the link and it will send you an invitation. We also have Patreon. If you would like to support us and this podcast, and you are just an extra generous person, and you feel like providing for us financially, hey, that'd be great. We'd very, very much appreciate it. Patreon members do get a discount to merch, and they also get some exclusive access. You can also find a link to that on the Linktree on all social media. Please rate this podcast. It genuinely helps us. That's what helps promote the algorithm. Hey, you listened to this podcast and you liked it, check out these guys. That is exactly what it does. 5 stars is what we seek, and we very, very much appreciate it.
And if you don't leave a 5-star rating, the Empire will destroy whatever planet Grogu is hiding on. The entire planet.
Yes, they will. They have guns to his head right now. They're waiting. The agenda of this episode, once again, 3D printing part 2. Then we'll be talking about experiences with Star Wars sanctioned costuming groups. I myself have been involved with the Mandalorian Mercs, and Ben has been involved with the 501st. So we'll be most likely talking a little bit about our costumes and what we have done with the groups and such. Our special segment is going to be towards the end of the episode. We'll be talking about how we feel about Disney Plus Premier Access. We've had 2 releases, and now we have Black Widow coming out for Disney Premier Access. So we'll be talking about that. Yes, and if time permits, Ben will be giving us an embarrassing story, and then we do have some Star Wars news, once again, if time permits, at the very end. Ben, you know why you're here. We are a Cantina Podcast, so we're going to go into the Cantina right now.
Welcome to KonKon's Cantina. What are you having? But remember, no droids.
It's an early Sunday morning here in the Cantina, but let's be honest, the spotchka is already flowing. I am drinking an Irish coffee this morning, and I've got some things on retainer if we get through this. I didn't have any good coffee left this morning. I just had Folgers, and it's not my favorite. It's not my favorite, but I stack it heavy. Yeah, well, no, there's people that are like, oh my gosh, Folgers is the best thing ever. It's not horrible, because like I said, I stack it heavy, so we have Starbucks barista.
That's how most reviews start. It's not horrible, but it's not a glowing endorsement either.
Yeah, listen, Folgers,
moderately better than dying of thirst is an
exactly
review.
Yeah. So I stacked it heavy, so it's nice and strong. And I did 1 shot of Kahlua and 1 shot of Proper 12, Conor McGregor's Irish whiskey.
You saw my drink and had to kind of copy it. We'll be honest.
I did, yeah. So okay, so this is all right. I give this a 5 out of 10 Mandos. No, 4 out of 10. This is a 4 out of 10. This is not like I've made way better Irish coffee. So 4 out of 10 for me. Ben, tell the people what you're drinking.
This is rather early on a Sunday morning. So I had a couple of really good high ABV beers, Dallas breweries lined up. But I decided, you know what, it's an early morning, so I actually poured instead 4 ABV nitro cold brew coffee. Really, really good. I love Guinness anyway. I never am without at least 6 to 12 cans of Guinness in the house. And I actually just tried the nitro cold brew for the first time last week, and it's been great. I love Guinness because you can cook with it. It's very versatile. A lot of times I don't want to feel bloated, and it's a really, really good beer. So as an option, I decided to do the cold brew coffee for a morning, and man, it's really, really good stuff.
Shout outs to Gio from Just a Sip podcast. Sorry, Gio, and I'm sorry, Ben. I do not like Guinness.
Really? Okay.
I do not like Guinness. Yeah,
when,
I can't.
When you come down, though, I'm going to make you a Irish stew with lamb and Guinness. You'll love it. I promise.
See, and I'm sure it's great to cook with. I mean, a lot of beers are good to cook with. It's just not a go-to for me. It's not something that I'd say no to. I mean, a Guinness on tap is amazing.
It's kind of a bland can for you, I guess. So
yeah,
I get it.
So show us that can again. This is the cold brew.
Nitro cold brew. I don't like Guinness in a bottle. I don't know why. Let me see if I can,
correct. Yeah.
There we go. There we go. I don't like Guinness in a bottle. I really like it in a can. Now, if you're used to having Guinness on tap at a pub, and I'm not talking someplace that doesn't have it poured correctly, but if you're not used to having Guinness in a pub, it's a little bit thicker. They have to make it a little bit thinner to work in a can that pours at home. But with the nitro, it's just really, really good stuff. It's very dark. There's almost no aftertaste. This one has really good chocolate notes because it's the coffee. It does have a little bit of caffeine, but any caffeine that occurs in this drink is naturally occurring. So they don't add any chemically infused caffeine flavor or coffee flavor. It's just really, really good coffee. It's a great beer, still made in Ireland, of course. Really good option.
And what is the Mando score for said beer?
I like Guinness, so I would say.
Oh, the high score is coming.
10. Well, I don't drink beers I don't like, so
true.
That's the real problem. There's plenty of beers.
That's a good rule to have.
There's plenty of beers out there that I've tried. I just don't care for them, but I'm not going to take one of those in the podcast. So I have most of my beers. I stock up on when I'm out of town when I'm in Dallas. So I have beers from Iceland. I have a couple of my favorite German beers. I have Guinness. So usually I'm going to reach to one of those. Manhattan Project is an amazing beer. It's what I was going to review. So we'll expect to hear that on the next one.
We'll get to that one. Yeah, we'll get to that one. Guys, 3D printing part 2. In our first episode, we touched on basically everything in a kind of a small microcosm. Obviously, you can delve deep into this stuff more on YouTube. People
really
who exactly, and we had a little bit of trouble finding a direction. That's due to my lack of knowledge. That's due to Ben having so much knowledge, and trying to really find a middle ground on getting you started is what we were.
Unfortunately, I've picked up on it rather quickly, but I'm not the go-to most knowledgeable person in 3D printing. But I'm really good at problem solving.
Listen, you're the best 3D printer on the planet. Okay, don't sell yourself short.
I'm the best 3D printer that you know. Okay.
True. That is true. And so this episode, we kind of, once again, because we had touched on so much in the last episode, we wanted to really give you a pointed direction. So we're going to actually tell you a printer. We're going to actually tell you how much that can cost, what you're going to get out of it.
Confirm the smaller couple of printers that you had asked about last time. So I'll make sure I mention those, even though I wasn't really researching them for myself.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. So the first thing that we're going to get into is, just like the previous episode, we have a question from listeners. And this question, they were asking, what type of glues do you recommend using for 3D printing?
So it depends on the filament that you're using, assuming that it's a filament 3D print. The common glue you'll use for almost any filament is just going to be regular CA glue, which is short for cyanoacrylate. Long name.
Is that contact cement, or is it different?
Contact cement is different. So contact cement, I use that for other things, like Barge is a really good contact cement. I used it to fix some shoes a couple days ago.
Yep. I use that for any EVA armor that I make. That's what I put
really
my
good.
seams
Just
together
like
with is contact
boots
cement.
that have like a foam midsole and you just need to do a little repair. Your EVA foam is going to be foam. So it's a really good glue for that. What is a really good brand of glue for super glue or CA glue, cyanoacrylate, is Bob Smith Industries. You'll see it just called BSI. I have it here in a couple of different consistencies, basically. Really, really good stuff. It's not that expensive. You can get it on Amazon, but there's not that many sellers. It's going to be a little bit more expensive, so you can go straight to a model shop that carries all the different versions and buy them together, so you don't have to pay shipping once. Don't go...
I was going to say probably like Hobby Lobby.
I haven't been to a Hobby Lobby in a while, so I don't know if they carry all these, so you might want to stop by and check, or just look online and see if your Hobby Lobby carries it before you drive out of your way to get it. I usually put some stuff in a cart, know what I'm looking for, find as many things I can from one place if they're not available on Amazon as an option.
Yeah.
That's one really good option for almost anything. Now, if you're going to print some things in PLA or ABS, and I have not done this because I'm not working with ABS or PLA, but one of the options you can do is any solvent that basically melts those materials. You can actually use them to basically chemically weld or melt and bond two pieces together. I'm not doing that because I'm using PETG, and that's not really an option for PETG. So you can use a super glue for PETG parts, or sometimes called PETG, but there's some other options you can also do there too, which we'll get into. I think you stepped up. You're getting more beer there for a second, I think.
Sorry, I had to switch cameras.
Okay.
I know that I have like a connection that's loose, but
okay.
I got it now. Yeah, I switched it.
All right, well, I didn't realize. Next time if you get pulled away fixing your camera or something, I'll tell an embarrassing story about you. That'd be a great time.
Oh yeah, there's plenty of those. There's plenty of those. Thank you for telling us about the glue. The next portion that we're going to be talking about is where we wanted to once again kind of give you a definite direction, something that you can look on, a place where you can actually go and find it, and what the price point is. That so Ben, what printer should you start with if you want to start small and you don't have a clear direction? Once again, we touched on this a little bit the last episode, but we're going to give you an extremely pointed,
make sure
pointed
all
answer.
Information's together. My suggestion for most people as of this year, with some technology changes, I would recommend starting with resin. Most people start with filament and then progress to resin when they want higher detail, higher quality. But I would actually argue with some of these new resin printers being pretty large for a very affordable budget, and the technology like mono displays allowing you to print faster, like 4 times faster, and allows the screen to last at least 4 times longer. I would actually argue to start with resin, because resin is just so forgiving. You still have to level a build plate, but it does so pretty automatically, which takes a lot of time and a lot of troubleshooting. With filament, I think you'd pull your hair out. So I would actually suggest starting with resin for most people as of this year, but make sure you get one that has a mono display. There's a couple of different options. I prefer going with any cubic because their larger option, it is about
Now, Anycubic is the
yes.
brand, correct?
Their
Okay.
option in the $700 to $800 price range is about an inch taller than the Elegoo Saturn, which is a really nice printer from Elegoo, but the Saturn is about an inch shorter. And I'd rather have the build volume. An extra inch can really help when you're printing a lightsaber or blaster that might otherwise crop off the very top.
Yeah, and then connecting anything 3D printing, you always are kind of running a risk of not getting that seam either really good. That's where some more skill's going to come into place, getting that seam and stuff.
And the seams are something it's nice to avoid, but I've come to realize that just the quality and the overall print are more important, because the seams are only where there's a seam, and you can be really judicious and careful about where you decide to slice it to put a seam. Whereas print lines are going to occur throughout the entire model. So even though the print lines are not as bad as an individual seam, we had to glue it together. If you get good at it and are really careful, then you only have to smooth it where there's a seam rather than the whole thing. And there's so many things that I print where you can't get in to every little thin area. Even when I'm using like needle files and like carefully going through and tweaking that, I'd rather just focus on a glue line, and I can put those where I want with that in mind.
And so once again, these two printers, if you have a budget that is under $500,
under $500,
we have
I would actually recommend the Anycubic Photon Mono. So the Photon Mono is actually well below a $500 budget, which is good because you can use that money to get your feet wet with a whole bunch of different resins. The Anycubic Photon Mono is, depending on where you get it, it's between $219 and $280. There are multiple duplicate listings on Amazon, so don't necessarily buy the first one, because some of them are more expensive, and rather than competing with the same listing, people just create a new listing and raise the price up higher until it gets merged with a different Amazon listing. So look around at several of them, because you can actually get them for, I think, $219. And for that price, that's a great deal.
And the next, which you mentioned already, but we'll go ahead. We'll give the price point again. That is the Anycubic Photon Mono 10,
it's the
or
X.
the X.
So I have the X, and the only real difference between the Photon Mono and the Photon Mono X is just size. So I have the X, which is quite a bit bigger. Now, it is quite a bit more expensive. It's jumping around in price. It's been $8.99 for a while. It's pretty regularly down to $7.99. And when I bought mine about 6 weeks ago, they had an instant $60 off coupon. So that made it, I think, $730. Now, there was about $65 in sales tax. That brought it up to $800 and about $5 for me on Amazon shipped. I would definitely get it on Amazon because they can be finicky. And I would make sure I get it from a place that gives you an easy return process, that you won't have any problems returning it if it doesn't work correctly.
What printer should you get if you want to print things like Star Wars helmets?
You can still do Star Wars helmets in resin like we talked about. Just keep in mind you will have to slice them in a budget under $1,000. If you have $3,000, there's resin printers that can print huge build volume, and you can do an entire helmet at one time, most helmets. But I think that's out of reach of most. I didn't even decide to go that method myself, and we'll get into that later because of the cost of actually we got into that in last week's episode, the cost of the replacement screens. It uses a lot of resin just to get started, and most things you print aren't going to be that big. So I would actually say you can still do it with a resin printer, and it's very forgiving. It's easy to learn. If you want to do them in one piece on a budget, that would force you to jump over to filament printers. And for that, on a good budget, and the best option there would be Creality. And I have a CR10 Max, which is a really good printer. You can get it for about $900 straight from Creality's website. it is a little bit more expensive on Amazon, but Amazon ships for free. So at $900 from Creality, you still have to pay for shipping, and it's coming from China, and it's not going to be easy to return something if you have to pay the freight to send it back to China. It is a little more expensive on Amazon. Sometimes it's $1,000 even with shipping. Right now it's $1,099, so it's $1,100. I would still argue that that's worth it for that safety.
You got Amazon's return
and if
policy.
It gets damaged in shipping,
like no questions.
It's also only coming from here in the U.S. If you have it coming on a container ship, from China, there's a lot more chance for it to get damaged and delayed.
There's a chance for it to get stuck in a canal too.
Yeah, that's.
There goes your printer.
Yeah, for a while. Be stuck in the mud.
That's what I'm leaning towards is the CR10S Pro version 2. It's not the Max, and that's the price point, about $600. We spoke about that, and that's really what's going to lead to our third episode is when I get my printer, I'm going to start getting my feet wet, and I'm sure we'll revisit it at that point. So what do you recommend for both FDM and resin?
As far as the
once again, you did
filament. Is that what you're referring to?
Yep.
So
correct.
I like to go with something that I know I can trust from the very beginning. I like to take that out of the equation. I don't get something that's on sale just gets like $3 less a roll because it's going to cost you a lot more than that in troubleshooting. Also tuning your printer to work with that resin or with that filament, because every filament and resin operates a little bit differently. With resin, you're adjusting the cure times to be perfect for that resin on that printer. With filament, you're adjusting temperature, and it's the temperature at the nozzle, the speed at which you can print, retraction settings. You also the temperature of the bed itself to get the prints to stick. It's really difficult. It's worth it, but it's very difficult. So make sure you don't jump into it, ordering it, and thinking that, in 3 months I have to have this ready and this ready and this ready. Just be patient and give it some time.
Yeah, it's definitely a learning curve. I mean, I see people post all the time in the Star Wars costuming groups on Facebook. Why is my printer doing this? Why is my printer doing that? There's definitely learning curves.
80% of the time, it comes down to bed leveling, which it's really difficult. And keep in mind, the larger the printer, the harder the time to level that bed. And when you get into a really big printer, no matter how careful you are, even leveling off the four corners, which is where the adjustment knobs are, as the build plate heats up, even the metal plate itself can warp. So I've been using a flex plate, and then sometimes a borosilicate or safety glass. Some people use a mirror from IKEA as a pretty common option also. And that holds really, really smooth. You get a glassy, smooth surface on the bottom because it's printing on glass. But it's trickier on a larger printer, so you have to keep that in mind, something as an option. But when you're talking about brands of filament and resin, I did a lot of work with Hatchbox in the beginning, and Hatchbox gets excellent reviews. But I was having a lot of problems with a lot of stringing. But if I even...
So Hatchbox is a brand of FDM.
Filament.
The filament, the
Hatchbox,
rolls.
At least for PETG. Hatchbox is very well regarded, but I had a lot of problems. I went through about 4 rolls, and I really didn't think of that as being the problem because it's supposed to be a really good brand. But I was having really bad layer adhesion problems. I was having some warpage and just not the best. Mostly just weak prints with bad layer adhesion, even at higher temperatures.
Yeah.
I switched to Overture. And I have had excellent print results with Overture. It's basically the same price. You can get a single roll.
Overture is another filament brand for FDMA, okay,
and
or
you can
FDM.
get it on Amazon Prime. It's usually about $20 to $22 for a single 1 kilo, which is 2.2 pounds, for one roll. Usually you can get them in a 2-pack, where it's just a little bit cheaper. I'd encourage you to do that. If you want, if you know you're going to be going through it. It's not much. You're saving about $1, $2 a roll. Sometimes it's 38, sometimes it's 40 for 2 rolls, whereas it's usually 20 to 22 for 1 roll. But I really have had excellent results with Overture. I've printed some other specialty filaments that even have carbon fiber mixed in. But I really think the best material for most people is going to be PETG. And Overture
Now,
is great.
And speaking of PETG, let's talk about PLA and the filament. Let's touch on the differences. So first, let's say what PLA is. Let's say what PETG is, and then let's talk about the differences.
PLA has been out for a long time. It's very forgiving. It's a very easy to print material, very easy with stringing, not much stringing. It's a plant-based material made, I believe, mostly from cornstarch. So it's readily available. It's cheap to produce. The problem with...
So you can eat it?
No, I would not eat it. I would not eat it, no matter how many Mando beers you've had. One thing, though, the real problem is it prints at a lower temperature. Where you think, well, that's nice. It doesn't have to get so hot. It's a little bit easier for any stock printer to print PLA because that's what they're basically designed to operate on out of the box and get great results. The problem is lower print temperatures mean that it can't stand up to even moderate heat. If you leave it in a hot car, no matter where in the United States you are, it's going to get a lot hotter in the car and you'll easily warp parts. Lots of people who aren't even in a really hot climate like Texas or Arizona, they'll paint parts and sit it out in just average backyard sun, just let it dry and cure, and they'll come out and the prints will sag, warp, and you'll lose whatever it was that you were printing on. So I'm not a fan of PLA. They do now have, in the last few years, PLA Plus. PLA Plus has some additives to make it a little bit better and stand up to a little bit more heat. The problem is PLA Plus, those additives, it's not uniform across all brands. So every company has their own proprietary additives. Some are a little bit better, some are not as good, but you're still kind of making a baby step to try and make it last better in the temperature, the heat. So I would recommend PETG. Printing in PETG does require a couple of upgrades, primarily an all-metal hot end, and that allows it to print.
And when you say the hot end, that's the actual part of the printer?
The hot end is the part that, it's the end that gets hot, and into that screws in the nozzle. And that...
Kind of like the tip of a glue gun.
Basically the tip of the glue gun. The difference, though, is the hot metal, the heat block goes onto the end of the hot metal, the hot end, but it needs to rapidly cool above the nozzle because you don't want to get any of the filament hot and molten except when it's at that very tip. And the reason why is you need it to cool rapidly because as you're printing, it's retracting as it's needed. And when it's retracting, you don't want it to retract and be too hot and get cooled up top, and then you'll get a jam. So an all-metal hot end allows it's metal all the way up higher, but it's still designed to not be as hot up higher and cool down so it doesn't jam. But you will want to do that. I would recommend Micro Swiss. It's very, very good company. I think the all-metal hot end for mine was like $65 on Amazon. And then you can get different nozzles. I also went with Micro Swiss for the nozzles. They make really good nozzles.
In the Amazon description, is it going to tell you if the parts are compatible? Is that something that you have to worry about?
It'll be for your particular printer, and oftentimes there'll be an all-metal hot end kit that works on several printers, like the two Crealis that we've talked about a lot. The CR10 Max uses the same all-metal hot end replacement as the CR10 Pro, CR10S Pro version 1 or version 2 that you're looking at. So you would actually be able to use the same hot end that I'm using, the exact same part number.
Gotcha. Ben, once again, we're trying to give you guys, the listeners, once again, a pointed direction. Hopefully, this has given you more of a direct answer. Like I said, we covered a lot of information. We wanted to give you couple more bullet points. Yes, we touched on some of the stuff that we touched on the last episode, but we also touched on some just more things that we wanted to get definite answers on, and we hoped that helped you. If you're looking for more information, obviously feel free to join in the Facebook group. Ben is in the Facebook group. You can ask Ben questions there.
I've been pretty good at answering questions that we either won't have time to cover in a podcast, or if you don't want to wait, I'll do the best I can. If I don't know, I'll point you to a good Facebook group that might get into certain details that aren't something that apply to my workflow.
And keep on the lookout. We will be doing a part 3 that will come later, obviously, as more questions come in. And as the Cantina itself here gets a 3D printer, I'm sure that we will be having tons more to talk about, and we'll be going over a lot more of 3D printing here in the future. At this point, costuming.
Yes.
Kind of the point of 3D printing a little bit, Ben, right? I mean, a lot of people use 3D printing to cosplay.
It's very popular. Either for Comic Cons or for events, or just local to go have fun with your friends. I've gone shopping at Walmart in full costume as a biker scout. It gets a lot of positive attention, especially when we're in the middle of a pandemic, and anyone you can make smile
some people
is awesome. It's also pretty acceptable right now to wear a mask, and you can't be more protected than full armor.
Yeah, that blastoid really helps, keep the Rona out.
The plastoid armor is awesome, just at anything but laser bolts. So
yeah, anything but laser bolt, exactly. So let's talk about 501st first, no pun intended.
Yes.
Ben, go ahead and tell us about, you mentioned a little bit last episode. Tell us about your garrison, and tell us how your experience thus far has been with the 501st and what you are. You just said biker scout.
The 501st is a worldwide costuming organization. It's an amazing group of people. It's a really good event, a very positive event. They do a lot of really great things. There's 14,180 members as of last night. I went online and checked. Might have already changed. They only require you to go to or participate in one 501st sanctioned event per year to keep up your membership. And that's really nothing. There's so many great events, some of them for kids, sometimes put a smile on sick kids' face, which is an amazing thing to be able to do. But then they also will be asked by Lucasfilm to help them out on occasion. A little while back, I think a decade or so ago, there was the huge Rose Bowl parade, and lots of 501st members. Lucasfilm actually flew them in. They did auditions and had them march in the Rose Bowl parade, which was awesome. The first season of The Mandalorian, the last couple of episodes had about 20 501st TKs. So it's a really good event, and sometimes you'll even get to work on some really cool projects.
Yeah. So have you gotten to go on a sanctioned event yourself yet?
I haven't. Not yet. I've been approved now for about 5 months. Of course, with the pandemic, there weren't a lot of in-person events. Yeah. I was actually supposed to go to an event last week. I really wanted to go, but we were filming the podcast, and I was trying to keep my schedule open.
Man, you should have put it on hold, man.
I want to be really supportive.
I get it.
Be really reliable with you guys. So,
yeah.
But I have a couple events coming up soon that I'll be sure to share, and I'll share some photos on the podcast. So make sure you're a member of the podcast Facebook group. I'll make sure to share some awesome photos. But yeah, it's a great event. You can look on their website, and they actually have, I believe, about a week or two ago when I counted them up, 460 current costumes to choose from. It's an awesome group.
And, a lot of people don't even realize they've actually seen the 501st in action in the last 2 episodes of The Mandalorian. 501st was actually used for TK units, and they got to be on the film set. I mean, which imagine getting that call.
That was a surprise to them. So they didn't know. And if you watch the gallery episodes,
Dave Filoni's like, where in the world are we going to get this many stormtroopers, and he's like, oh, duh.
Yeah.
He's like, we'll call the 501st.
And
Yeah,
it was
it's
pretty epic.
sick.
And what's so cool is then those 501st members who do everything to have screen accurate costumes, suddenly their costumes that they built themselves are not only screen accurate but screen worn. It was pretty exciting for them. I know that they were just thrilled, even more so because they couldn't say anything for months until the episode aired.
There's a couple of things that, if you're looking to get into costuming, that you do need to be aware of when it comes to what is considered a sanctioned Lucasfilm costuming group. 501st, Rebel Legion, Mandalorian Mercs, and you had one more. We had one more that's mentioned.
Look for it over here on my list, but there's also one for kids. And the
Galactic Academy
is for anyone under the age of 17. So, I mean, you can have a baby dressed up as Leia and get them started early until
Jawas, Ewoks.
So the cool thing about Galactic Academy is any sanctioned or any faction. So it can be Empire, Rebel, Bounty Hunter. There's a lot of Jawas, little cute little baby Jawas. It's so cute.
And that's one thing to remember is baby Grogu's. Depending on, so say you want to get into Star Wars costuming for the first time. If you're doing this with the goal of joining a group or being part of a community, there's a couple of things that you need to understand. 501st is Empire and Sith.
And bounty hunters.
And you can, and
bounty
also
hunters.
Some
of our favorites,
and they're
like,
all
Onaka. So if you would like to be some of the pirates from Galaxy's Edge, you can do that too.
Yep. A lot of their costumes, not a lot, all are screen accurate. There's not going to be room for customizations in some of these costuming groups. Same goes for Rebel Legion.
You can be grandfathered in some cases, but as they find new reference and make a certain costume more specific in certain requirements, to be a new member, you have to meet the current requirements.
Yeah, and it's strenuous. You build your costume. You then have to send a bunch of photos.
It's a lot of fun. And to know that you have a costume that not only could, but is 501st approved is awesome. It's a badge of honor, basically.
Now, if you would like some more customization, my advice would be Mandalorian Mercs. Now, once again, this is from the islands of, you want to make a costume and you want to be part of an organization. You want to be part of a group that's going to do charity work, that's going to be doing, if you want to just build, your own costume and, no holds bars, no rules, there's plenty of room for that. There's tons of Star Wars cosplay groups. Independent cosplayers obviously have, their own Instagrams and whatnot.
More freedom if you don't want to be a part of the 501st. There are some things like, for instance, that's what I talked about earlier with you. Know your goals. If your goal is, if you also want to be able to go do a pub crawl dressed up as a stormtrooper and drink, that wouldn't be something you'd be able to do once you're 501st approved, because you represent the Legion and Lucasfilm. You also have to stand and to a certain, level of, you're representing
bureaucracy.
But you're also since you represent them, everything has to be at really the highest standards. So if that's something you want to be able to do, just keep in mind that would actually prevent you from being able to be 501st. Anyone can go do whatever they'd like, but as the 501st member, I even reached out to my garrison to let them know, hey, I'm going to be on a podcast. We're going to be drinking beer. I won't be in costume. Is that okay? And they said, yes, as long as you're not in costume, it's no problem. But those are things you have to constantly be kind of thinking about. Make sure that anytime you're in costume, even if it's not at a sanctioned event, you represent the Legion. So, and Lucasfilm, so you want to make sure that, and the Empire. So we want to make sure we represent the Empire to the very highest level.
Yeah, and that's where the customization comes in. If you're looking to kind of make something your own, I highly suggest that you look into the Mandalorian Mercs. Even
you were a member of the Mandalorian Mercs?
Being a long story. We'll get into that. Right. We'll get into that another time. But the forums, unfortunately, are a little dated. there's still a lot of information on there that's good that you can use to help you build your costume. It's just people aren't really using forums anymore. I mean, really, Reddit is the only forum that people are really actively participating in. I mean, my advice is
the Mandalorian Mercs.
The Mercs.
I would say it's some of the best content available for many of the groups. For many of the groups that I'm in, there's some really good groups that deal with specific characters or films or like the Mandalorian, any character inside the Mandalorian. So sometimes Facebook groups are the way to go. In fact, that's the only reason why I have a Facebook, is just for the Star Wars costuming groups.
And I think you get the fastest reactions, or the fastest notifications, the fastest replies and returns to your questions on Facebook.
Lots of times people get on one of the groups and ask, what is the best files for a particular character or for a particular blaster? And then there'll be always someone in that group, sometimes some biased information, but there'll always be people in the group that have built some of the different props, some of the different helmets, tell you which brands they recommend, which 3D modelers make really good work. Not just really good work, but if they have the level of skill to know how to make that model in pieces, that's the best to be able to go back together. So some of them even enter like pins and aligning pegs, so that when you're putting it together, it's the best assembly process. And that's something else to keep in mind. That two companies may be very similar as far as accuracy, but if one of them does a better job of making a model for you to assemble, that's something to consider also.
Yeah, the Mandalorian Mercs is really, and you do kind of have to have that appreciation for Mandalorian culture, right? Like, if you weren't really a fan of Boba Fett, or you weren't a fan of Jango, maybe you're a fan of Din Djarin, maybe you really liked our newest version of Mandalorians that we're getting. I would really suggest that you look in that direction, because that's where you're going to be able to show your creativity and make your
mix and
what we call a kit.
Yeah, and color schemes.
Color schemes, different armor, all that stuff. This is my newest bucket.
Oh, that's very nice.
So this is a Foundling Bucket. This was based on a 3D print from Ironforge, and then it was resin casted afterward. So it was a completely raw print. I sanded it out, smoothed it out. Yeah. Added my own flair to it. I have kind of like a sky blue on my visor.
And did you paint that? 'Cause that looks really good.
Yep, everything's painted. I have a really nice heavy black wash, especially on the mohawk area, and then above, the visor where dirt would definitely sit and rest. Yeah. Now I haven't gotten to the inside of my kit yet. The inside of my helmet, I want to do an entire bucket kit, like for the inside. There's just regular foam in there.
Because you can do
to make it look.
Yeah. There's some really good options.
Kind of like what the people do with the TK. Yeah, people do a lot of that with TK helmets. But another option too. Once again, let me put this down. Another option that people do, if your abilities are limited, kind of like with the sanding and all that stuff. And once again, this is more from the Mandalorian aspect, is a lot of people can get the Boba Fett Black Series helmets. Now, this is the newest Boba Fett Black Series helmet. Tons of people have done reviews on this on YouTube. I suggest going and looking at those. And this is a really great place to start, because you can simply tape off this helmet, and you could make it your own very, very easily with just primer, some sandpaper, and then obviously, painting it to your liking. And the inside actually is super cool. The inside is already done. It kind of has very much what it would look like in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah,
so you can see that, Ben. It already kind of has like a helmet kit inside, which is really, really nice.
And
but
if you weather that,
once again, just remember. Oh yeah, for sure. Just remember that when you're looking at these sanctioned groups, if you're going to go 501st, if you're going to go Rebel Legion, you have to stick to screen accurate stuff. There's not going to be room for customization. Going to Mandalorian Mercs, that's where you're going to be able to customize and do stuff your own.
Not only in this level of screen accuracy, I believe, but also in the level of personalization, customization, making armor to your own personal liking, which is very much in the the fashion of the Mandalorian culture.
Yeah. Now, one thing that I would say, what we had in our notes is experiences. Yes. And the reason for that is I would advise anybody, if you do not do well with politics, if you don't do well with people telling you what to do, and you do not follow well with rules.
I thought you liked politics. You love the prequels.
Listen, intergalactic trading routes is my favorite thing to talk about. I mean, my filibuster on that is coming up next week. If those things don't apply to you, if you don't like being told what to do and you don't like following rules, do yourself a favor and do not join a group. Because there's rules, and there's nothing wrong with rules. If you have trouble following rules or you don't like rules, then don't join them. That is my only bit of advice. Is do not join them.
I'm sure.
If that is a problem for you. I'm not saying that's a problem for everybody.
So far in the group that I'm
that's
in,
what I'm saying.
Maybe it varies by garrison, but the garrison that I'm in, which is I'm in Texas, so I'm in Star Garrison, and I'm in North Texas Squad.
I love that it's Star Garrison and it's Texas.
Yeah. And Star is
obviously
also,
not a coincidence.
Star
Perfect.
Also goes well with the Star Wars universe. So yeah.
I didn't even think of that, Ben.
So not necessarily Lone Star, but no, it's Star Garrison, and everybody that I've met so far has been amazing. It's a lot of fun. Our garrison has been very helpful, very supportive in getting new members approved, and I had some problems logging in. They're a great group of people to work with, more than happy to help.
Yeah. So once again, I mean, just to kind of wrap this up, it goes back to what we talked about in the beginning of our last episode and what we've touched on this episode with the recommendations of Ben. Really have an idea of where you're going. Look at these websites, look at their forums, understand where you want to go with the Star Wars costume. Do you want to be an Imperial? Do you want to be a TK? Do you want to be a Rebel, whether that be a pilot or a Jedi? Once again, screen accurate, screen characters only.
So join the 501st.
Join the 501st.
I'm biased, I don't think so, but we do have the coolest costumes.
Or you can create your own character. Find people on Etsy that are making Jedi tunics. Pick your colors. Make your own costume. Make your own character. Create your own Instagram.
There's lots of people who are members of both. I definitely want to be a Stormtrooper, and my wife is also working on a Stormtrooper. I won't quite share which one. But the advantage just being in the same group is sometimes they open up the application process for a particular event at different times on Rebel Legion or 501st. And I like it that if we're going to go to an event together and sometimes they're farther away, that we can apply for both of us at the same time for the same event and know that we'll both be able to get a spot. So for us, that's one advantage for us being in the same. Maybe at some point in time in the future, she might also work on a Rebel Legion costume, but I'm completely supportive of the Empire, so I'll be staying with something with armor.
And I would definitely suggest to, obviously, with the current situation the world is in, it's a little bit more difficult. But if you've never attended if you've never attended like a Comic-Con or a Mega-Con, any sort of a con where people are dressing up, visit them, talk to people in costume. You know, you're going to learn a lot from when you build your costume and you go to an event and your costume is falling apart to your third event where you figured out what works about your costume, what doesn't work about your costume. There's going to be a lot of things that people suggest in how you do it in ways that you find it to do it yourself. It's just trial and error. So, I think that's a great time to go into our special segment before we wrap this episode up, Ben. Special segment that we were going to talk about this week, and then we'll be coming back to you, of course, next week, is we've had two things come out on Disney Plus Premiere now. And with the newest news that Black Widow is also going to be on Disney Plus Premiere, kind of wondering if we could even see Star Wars movies come to a Disney Plus Premiere platform, right? We're already getting it. So the question is how do you feel about Disney Plus Premiere Access? I'll let you kick it off a little bit, Ben, and then I'll jump in.
I haven't actually used Premiere Access yet. I will be using it for the first time to watch the Black Widow when that comes out. The only thing I have as an argument, it's a great substitute. It's about the cost of two people going to the movie theater anyway, and you get to watch it several times.
Exactly.
But I don't think of it as a long-term solution to a particular movie. If it's a movie that really is my favorite, like anything Star Wars, I'm still going to later buy it again as a physical copy. And the reason why, the only drawback I have with the Disney streaming service, they do have some extra content that's not available elsewhere, like the gallery and making of series for Mandalorian, the different movies. But there's also information that they don't have that's only available on the extra discs for the physical copy. So I'm still going to want to watch my favorite movies. I'm still going to want to own them on a physical disc, so I have all of the content of the making and the behind the scenes, because that's honestly some of my
really
favorite material. The
100%.
other argument is, if it really is one of your favorite movies, you're also going to want to buy it as a physical copy, because if you're really going to sit there at night and make a really good movie experience, you are going to have about 3 to 4 times the bit rate, which does affect quality if you're watching it off of the source material in like a 4K Ultra HD disc versus if you're watching it streaming. There are concessions that are made when it's being streamed, no matter how good your internet connection is.
And I think that can play to the individual too. You know, like one of our listeners, James, he has literally like a home theater with Dolby Atmos. He truly has a home theater system set up in his home. And some people aren't necessarily into home theater and Disney Premier Access, or just how we are getting streaming stuff in general nowadays isn't going to fulfill that need.
In the visual quality. Or even in the sound quality. I think more of it that you'll see if you're really astute and an audiophile, or you notice all of the fine details, will be in the video quality. Still not bad. I watch most of my content, Star Wars or Marvel content, on Disney Plus. But if I'm going to sit down right in front of the TV with the sole purpose of watching a particular show, especially if it's my favorite, I'm going to want it in its highest quality. And now there is one other thing I don't even think I told you, but there is one other advantage to watching certain content on Disney Plus. The movies are only available in, I think, Spanish and English, maybe French. However, The Mandalorian is available in, I believe, 8 languages on Disney Plus.
Yes.
And that's really cool, because most content that you buy in a physical disc in the United States is only going to come in English, French, and Spanish, of course. But it's really, really cool that on...
I really want to watch Mandalorian dubbed in German now.
I watch it all the time in German. I watch it all the time in German. I'm working on German. We also... That's one of the places where we'll be going back to again. My wife has only been there briefly. Coming home from our last trip, we stopped and went to Oktoberfest, but it was not long enough to really soak it in. It's an amazing place. But yeah, when I'm watching a movie while I'm working or taking photos in the studio, I'll oftentimes have Star Wars playing in the background, one of the movies, and every once in a while I'll watch The Mandalorian in German, just while I'm kind of keeping it fresh and trying to pick up whatever I can, especially if it's content that you already know the words to in English. You'd be surprised how much you pick up and can connect. So that's another That's how I need to learn Spanish. Yeah.
I need to watch Star Wars in Spanish. What I'll actually do is not know what I'll know what I'm saying because it's Star Wars, and I'll just start saying Star Wars in Spanish. I still won't know Spanish.
It's a lot of fun. We say lots of quotes from the Star Wars universe in German around the house and things that we both know. It's pretty funny.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you plan on doing this for Black Widow. Did you not you didn't get premiere access for Mulan, and then the newest one was Raya the Last Dragon?
Either of those. Now, the last month I've been really, really busy. I know you have too. I had to film the last episode in the kitchen because we were re-roofing the loft, and it was noisy.
Yeah.
And I'm really glad that it made for a good video. This video, I wanted to make sure my sound was hopefully a lot better. Lighting should be a lot better. So thank you for being patient with me.
Oh, no, it's been fine. I definitely also plan on doing it for Black Widow.
Black Widow, I'll be excited to watch as soon as it comes out because I would love to have some more fun content.
Because we should have had it already.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. You know, we should have had it already. It's a movie that I definitely want to see. I think to Patty Jenkins' Star Wars movie coming out, Rogue Squadron. Depending on when that movie comes out and the state that the world is in, which hopefully it won't be in that state when that comes out, I just wonder if this is just a model that continues. Like, even though we have the theaters available, if this is something that you could still rent at home.
That'd be great.
Yeah. I still think I'd rather see Star Wars in theaters. I think you would agree with that.
Yeah, so far I've seen every movie in theater, so that's going to be something to think about. The Marvel releases, like Black Widow, I'll be really excited to sit down and have a movie night with the wife. She's getting really excited with all of the Marvel stuff that's been showing up, all the new series. But yeah, I think if it was a Star Wars movie, I would definitely want to go to the theater. We've been staying up for all the Mandalorian episodes and watching them. It drops in Texas right about 2:20 in the morning, and we watch all of them when they go live. So it's quite a...
That's been the craziest thing, is we still haven't gotten like any Mando season 3 news.
Yeah, and we'll have to see what happens. So you have Mando season 3. Yeah. There's been talk about whether or not it'll be replaced with the Book of Boba Fett. I don't know.
They've specifically said no, but I think due to a lot of
politics,
drama, to say the least. Yeah, drama and politics. I think maybe
there was even someone reporting last week that they might be asking Gina Carano to come back. So it's just not sure.
Who knows? I mean,
I think that's unlikely,
and even before,
but and it's a shame.
And even before the Gina drama, there was all the drama about Pedro Pascal wanting to have his helmet off more.
What really set him off,
some of that
was seeing the action figure. The words were, it was brought on set, and when they showed him his action figure, and it was based off of the only time in season 1 his helmet was off, and he looked like a wet rat. I think that's what really, really. And I understand, but we got some really good content with his helmet off in the second season. And honestly, my favorite episode was with the shore troopers, and of course, we see Mando's helmet. He takes it off for the facial scan. Great episode.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's so much about season 2 where obviously we got more of him with his helmet off. That was really, really good. I hope we get some news. We had been told that Book of Boba Fett wouldn't be replaced in season 3. I hope that continues to be the case. I just hope that we get more of that later.
As much content as we can.
I'm really Well, everybody, thank you very much once again for joining us this week at KonKon's Cantina. Hopefully we gave you more information on 3D printing. We wanted to bring more of that to light. Hopefully we gave you a direction as far as costuming groups and what you can, a little bit brief expectancy on those costuming groups and whatnot and where you can go. I was your boy, it's KonKon, and of course, with me virtually,
Benjamin. It was a lot of fun. If you want to check out my Instagram, it's Benjamin Asher, which I'm going to make a lot of really cool Star Wars content. Some things I'm working on, Phillips Galaxy's Edge. It's been a blast being on the show.
And we will catch you guys next week with our Ahsoka character study. See you next time.